With everything flying around online and in the news, sometimes it's tough to get a clear picture.
Definitely.
That's kind of where we are with West Bengal right now, especially what's been happening in Murshidabad.
Hmm.
Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee put out this open letter, and, well, it stirred things up. So let's maybe try and get to the heart of it together.
Absolutely. We have what she said in the letter and, of course, the news reports surrounding it. I think our goal here is to really unpack what happened on the ground in Murshidabad.
Right.
Look at how she's framing it and
Yeah.
maybe understand what it tells us about the bigger picture.
Yeah.
The politics, the social tensions, the region's identity even.
Murshidabad. I mean, it's a name you hear historically significant, right? It's not just any district. Why does what happened there feel particularly significant?
Yeah, it really is steeped in history. Think of it as this historical melting pot. For centuries, Hindu and Muslim communities haven't just existed
They've
nearby.
actively coexisted.
Exactly. They've built a shared culture. You see glimpses of it in landmarks like the Hazardari Palace. It's quite grand.
Okay.
But also just in the day-to-day buzz of the markets. It's always been a place of exchange. And it's that deep history of, well, harmony, mostly, that makes this recent violence feel so troubling. It kind of challenges that long-standing identity.
And the trigger, it seems, was this proposed Waqf Amendment Act. Now, Waqf, for maybe just quickly, what is that exactly?
Sure, so basically think of it like a charitable endowment under Islamic law.
Oh,
It's a system for managing properties, usually donated, for specific religious or community purposes like mosques, schools, or helping the needy.
got it. So the amendment is about changing how those are managed.
Essentially, yeah. The
Yeah.
idea is often presented as, reform, maybe making the walk boards run more efficiently or transparently.
Okay, that sounds straightforward enough on the surface. So where's the controversy coming from? What are the concerns?
Well, the friction arises because some critics, especially within minority communities, worry that these changes could potentially weaken their control over these institutions.
Ah, right.
It touches on really sensitive nerves about religious autonomy and community rights. And while this debate about the Waqf Act is happening nationally in a place like Murshidabad, with its specific history and demographics, well, those anxieties clearly boiled over.
And tragically, it did boil over into violence. We're talking lives lost, injuries, property damage. That's a heavy blow for any community.
It really is a profound tragedy.
Hmm.
Reports confirm 3 people lost their lives, several others were injured, and there was quite a bit of property damage too.
Yeah.
Beyond just the physical destruction, this kind of thing really eats away at the social fabric. That trust, that sense of shared life that defined Murshidabad.
And Banerjee called it an unfortunate incident that happened on provocation. That word provocation really stands out. Who does she think provoked it?
Exactly. And her letter doesn't really leave much doubt about who she's pointing the finger at. She directly accuses the BJP and the RSS.
Okay, what's the main thrust of that accusation?
Her core argument is basically that they are deliberately exploiting the Murshidabad situation for political gain. She uses the phrase narrow electoral politics.
So she's saying it's calculated.
Yes, very much so. She's claiming they are intentionally trying to stir up divisions, create discord between communities purely to help themselves politically.
And she linked this somehow to Ram Navami. How did that fit in?
Right. Her point was that the Ram Navami celebrations in West Bengal this year, 2025, were actually peaceful.
Unlike some previous years.
Exactly. Reports generally back that up. So her narrative is, since Ram Navami didn't provide the spark they were looking for, they shifted focus to the Waqf Act protests in Murshidabad to try and, sow that same discord. It suggests a deliberate search for a flashpoint.
Interesting. But she wasn't just pointing fingers, was she? There was also a call for calm, for unity.
Oh, absolutely. A very strong appeal. She stressed that the path to peace lies in the majority and minority communities actively looking out for each other, taking care of each other. It's a direct plea for communal harmony, pushing back against what she sees as outside forces trying to divide people.
And what about accountability for the actual violence? Did she address that?
She did. She made it clear her government is taking it very seriously. She specifically mentioned that 2 police officers in charge in the area were removed immediately.
Okay.
And she assured people that investigations are ongoing to find the criminals, as she put it, behind the riots and bring them to justice. It's a signal they intend to restore order.
So let's try and verify some of this. The violence itself, the casualties in Murshidabad,
Yeah.
that seems tragically well documented.
Yes, unfortunately. Multiple credible reports confirmed the loss of life, the injuries, the property damage during those protests related to the Waqf Act in early April 2025. The facts on the ground, the consequences, are sadly undeniable.
But her claim about the BJP and RSS orchestrating it, that feels harder to, well, prove definitively, doesn't it? What do we know there?
You're absolutely right. Proving direct orchestration, that someone specifically planned and directed the violence, is always very difficult. However, what is documented is that leaders and groups associated with both the BJP and RSS were vocal about the Waqf Act issue. They held rallies, made statements concerning the protests in Murshidabad.
So they were actively involved in the discourse around it.
They were actively engaged, yes. Whether that engagement constitutes the provocation Banerjee alleges, well, that's where political interpretation comes in. But their presence and voice on the issue in that region are facts.
Okay. And the police action she mentioned, transferring those two officers.
That's also confirmed. Local news reported on the administrative decision to transfer the officers in charge from 2 police stations in the affected zones right after the violence flared up. It's a fairly standard response when law and order breaks down like that.
And her point about Ram Navami being peaceful this year in West Bengal.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. Media reports and police statements do generally indicate that Ram Navami 2025 passed relatively peacefully across the state.
Compared to before.
Especially compared to some incidents in previous years, yes. So that does lend some support to her claim that maybe narratives of widespread communal trouble around the festival this year were perhaps overstated. And it fits her argument that the focus then shifted elsewhere.
So it seems her letter is grounded in some very real tragic events, but the interpretation, the why behind it, especially regarding political motives, is where the major contention lies.
Precisely. And this all unfolds against this backdrop of a really intense political struggle in West Bengal.
Between her party, the Trinamool Congress, and the BJP.
Absolutely. The BJP has been pushing hard to expand its footprint in the state, and they often focus on cultural and religious identity issues to mobilize support. It's a key part of their strategy there.
And Banerjee's countermove has always been to position herself as the defender of secular values and specifically Bengali identity, right? Accusing the BJP of being outsiders, bringing divisive politics.
That's exactly her playbook. She frames herself and the TMC as protectors of West Bengal's unique cultural fabric, its history of tolerance. So these protests over the Waqf Act, they just become the latest battlefield in this larger war for political control of the state.
So you use that phrase, divide and rule. That obviously carries a lot of historical weight in India.
Oh, massively. By using that specific phrase, she's drawing a deliberate line connecting the BJP's alleged tactics to the strategies of the British colonial rulers.
Wow.
It's a powerful rhetorical move. It paints them as external forces trying to break the internal unity of Bengal for their own benefit, tapping into deep-seated historical memories and trying to galvanize regional sentiment.
But stepping back from the political strategy for a moment, the human cost. We mentioned the deaths and injuries, but what about the damage to the community itself?
That's often the deepest wound, isn't it? This kind of violence doesn't just break buildings, it can break trust. Generations might have lived together, but incidents like this create fear, suspicion.
It poisons the everyday interaction.
Exactly. Those simple daily connections get disrupted. Banerjee talked about preventing mutual mistrust, and that really gets to the heart of it. That's why her call for the majority and minority to literally take care of each other feels so essential. It's about rebuilding that trust from the ground up.
She also drew a contrast between how West Bengal handles things versus some BJP-run states. What was that comparison about?
Yeah, she named states like Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan. Her claim was that West Bengal allows protests, even if they get messy sometimes, where she alleges those other states clamp down harder on dissent.
Trying to paint West Bengal as more democratic.
That seems to be the implication, highlighting a perceived difference in tolerance for public expression.
And she mentioned the bulldozer actions too, particularly in UP. What was the significance of bringing that up?
That was a very pointed comparison. The use of bulldozers, often against properties belonging to minorities, under the pretext of illegal construction in states like UP, has been hugely controversial.
Right.
So Banerjee contrasts that imagery with what she calls West Bengal's We Help approach, suggesting a more compassionate response when people face difficulties. She often points to her government's welfare schemes, like Kanyashri for girls or Swasthya Sathi for health, as evidence of this inclusive governance style, though of course her government faces its own share of criticism too.
It also sounds like she was trying to shift the focus, saying these communal issues are a distraction from, well, bread and butter concerns.
Yes, that was another clear line in her argument. She accused the BJP of deliberately stoking these fires to make people forget about economic problems.
Like price rises.
Exactly. Petrol, diesel, cooking gas, basic necessities. Her point is that ordinary people are grappling with those daily struggles, and these political controversies are a way to divert attention from the government's handling of the economy. It's a common political tactic to connect with voters' immediate economic anxieties.
And bringing in the history, the memory of partition. Why is that specific historical context so potent in West Bengal?
Because West Bengal lived through partition. The state was literally carved up, leading to immense suffering and displacement. Those scars run incredibly deep.
So the fear of division is very real.
Very real and very visceral. When Banerjee talks about unity and warns against division, it taps into that collective trauma, the profound desire to never see history repeat itself. It resonates far beyond just the immediate political context, connecting to national anxieties about communal harmony as well.
So looking forward, what's needed now? How does the situation potentially stabilize or heal?
Well, trust seems to be the key word, doesn't it? Trust that the government will actually deliver justice for what happened in Murshidabad. Trust between the communities themselves, which needs active rebuilding. Trust in local leaders to step up and foster dialogue, not division.
And maybe trust in ordinary people, too.
Definitely. Acknowledging the countless everyday people who are probably just trying to get on with their lives and choosing cooperation over conflict. Banerjee ended her letter on that hopeful note, we shall together survive and win. But making that happen takes real sustained effort from everyone involved.
It really shows how these local incidents, like in Murshidabad, are never just local, are they? They reflect these much bigger national debates, these struggles over identity, politics, and history.
Absolutely. What happened there, Banerjee's forceful reaction, the political tug-of-war between TMC and BJP, that desperate call for unity in a place known for its diversity, it all highlights just how fragile social harmony can be in such a charged environment.
And West Bengal's own history serves as such a stark reminder of the human cost when that harmony breaks down.
A very stark reminder. The cost of division is immense.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, it leaves you thinking, doesn't it? In any community anywhere facing these kinds of pressures, how do people actually maintain that unity? How do they resist the forces trying to pull them apart? What role do those small, everyday things, the chats over chai, the shared festivals, the local accusations, really play in keeping things together when the political winds are blowing so hard? Something to mull over, definitely.